If your blood sugar spikes after meals, even when you think you're eating right, there's something important you need to understand today. Most people are told these foods are the problem, yet they're staples in everyday life, and cutting them out rarely works long-term. The real issue isn't willpower or discipline, it's how your body reacts to these foods based on timing and preparation. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know how to eat these foods without sending your blood sugar on a roller coaster.
Right.
Blood sugar spikes don't happen because you're careless. They happen because your body follows rules most people were never taught. For most adults over 50, the problem isn't eating carbohydrates. It's how and when they're eaten. And the good news is this: small, practical changes can dramatically improve how your blood sugar responds after meals. In this video, I'll walk you through 6 science-based ways to eat carbs more safely and keep your blood sugar steadier. The first and most important rule is this: never eat carbohydrates by themselves, especially after 50. When carbohydrates are eaten alone, they break down quickly, and glucose enters the bloodstream faster than the body can manage. Protein and healthy fats slow digestion, giving your body time to process glucose more smoothly and steadily. So remember this simple rule: pair carbohydrates with protein or fat, and you immediately reduce blood sugar stress. Let me show you a simple example. Bread by itself behaves very differently than bread eaten with protein. When you add eggs or another protein, digestion slows, and glucose enters the bloodstream at a more manageable pace. The same principle applies to rice. When it's paired with protein and vegetables, the glucose rise becomes gentler. You don't have to avoid carbohydrates. Just make sure they're never eaten alone. The second strategy is surprisingly powerful. Changing the order you eat your food can change your blood sugar response. Your body reacts differently depending on what you eat first, even when the foods on the plate never change. Starting a meal with carbohydrates leads to a sharper glucose rise than eating them later in the meal. Begin with protein and vegetables, then finish with carbohydrates to support steadier blood sugar. To understand why food order matters, you need to know how quickly glucose reaches your bloodstream. When carbohydrates hit an empty stomach, they're absorbed quickly, causing glucose to rise faster. Eating protein and fiber first slows digestion, so glucose enters the blood more gradually. The food doesn't change, only the order does, and that alone can create a steadier glucose response. This isn't a theory. Multiple clinical studies have tested food order and shown measurable differences in blood sugar response. When people eat protein and vegetables before carbohydrates, post-meal glucose rises are consistently lower. These effects aren't limited to one group. They've been observed in older adults and in people managing elevated blood sugar. Science confirms it. Eating carbohydrates last is a simple, evidence-based way to support steadier blood sugar. The third method is powerful but often overlooked: using resistant starch to change how your body handles carbohydrates. Most starches break down quickly into glucose, but resistant starch behaves very differently inside the body. Resistant starch isn't easily broken down, so it passes through digestion more slowly instead of rapidly raising blood sugar. By slowing digestion, resistant starch helps create a gentler rise in blood sugar after meals. One major benefit of resistant starch is a smoother rise in blood sugar after meals, instead of sharp peaks. When glucose enters the bloodstream more slowly, your body doesn't need to release as much insulin all at once. Resistant starch also supports the gut environment, which plays an important role in overall metabolic balance. This is a small change in how food is prepared, but the long-term benefits for blood sugar can be meaningful. Here's a practical example. When rice is cooked, cooled, and then reheated, part of the starch becomes resistant. Potatoes behave the same way. Cooling and reheating changes the starch structure without changing the food itself. You don't need special foods or strict diets, just a small change in how familiar meals are prepared. Remember this simple habit: cool your starches first, reheat them later, and you may see steadier blood sugar. The fourth method is one of the simplest. Gentle movement right after a meal can make a real difference. You don't need intense exercise. Just 10 minutes of light movement can help your body manage glucose better. What matters most is when you move, not how hard you move. Right after eating is the key window. When gentle movement becomes part of your routine after meals, blood sugar control often becomes easier over time. When you move after eating, your muscles immediately begin using glucose as fuel, helping lower what stays in the bloodstream. The calf muscles, especially the soleus, are built for endurance and can absorb glucose efficiently during gentle movement. When muscles take up glucose through movement, the body doesn't need to rely as heavily on insulin right after meals. That's why light movement after eating is one of the most effective and age-friendly ways to support blood sugar control. The fifth method is about choosing the right type of carbohydrate. Not all carbs behave the same in the body. Highly processed carbohydrates are broken down very quickly, which often leads to faster and higher glucose rises. Whole, minimally processed carbohydrates release glucose more slowly and are easier for the body to manage. When it comes to carbohydrates, slower digestion almost always means steadier blood sugar. When choosing carbohydrates, start with whole grains and legumes. They're digested more slowly and support steadier blood sugar. The less a grain is broken down, the slower it's digested, and that's exactly what we want. Fiber acts like a natural brake, slowing how quickly glucose enters the bloodstream after a meal. These simple, everyday choices can add up to meaningful improvements in blood sugar over time. The sixth method has nothing to do with what you eat. It's about when you eat, and timing matters more than most people realize. Your body processes glucose more efficiently earlier in the day when insulin sensitivity is naturally higher. In the evening, your body is preparing to rest, not process energy, so glucose tends to linger longer in the bloodstream. That's why eating earlier in the day often makes blood sugar easier to manage, especially as we get older. A simple rule of thumb is to finish your last meal earlier in the evening instead of close to bedtime. For most people, aiming to finish dinner about 3 hours before sleep works very well. This doesn't have to be perfect every night. Consistency over time is what truly matters. Eating a little earlier and a little lighter can make blood sugar control feel much more manageable. We've covered 6 practical ways to help steady blood sugar, none of them extreme, and all of them realistic for daily life. When these habits work together, their combined effect can be far more powerful than any single change alone. You don't need to do everything perfectly. What matters most is steady progress you can maintain. Choose approaches that fit your life, and let consistency, not extremes, support your long-term health. The goal was never to eliminate carbohydrates, but to understand how to eat them in a way your body can handle. When you understand how your body responds, you gain control without relying on extreme rules or constant worry. Take what you've learned today and apply what fits your life. There's no single perfect approach. When these habits become consistent, steady blood sugar control becomes much more achievable. If you found this helpful, I invite you to become part of the Health Hack Hive community. Subscribe to Health Hack Hive for clear, practical guidance designed especially for adults who want to age with strength and confidence. This content is for education only and is not a substitute for personal medical advice from your healthcare provider. Always discuss changes to your diet or routine with a qualified healthcare professional who knows your situation. Remember, health isn't built overnight. It's shaped by small, thoughtful choices made consistently over time. You don't have to navigate these changes alone. We're here to learn, improve, and move forward together. If this video helped you, please like it, share it with someone you care about, and leave a comment with your experience or questions. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video here at Health Hack Hive.